Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, your place for up-to-the-minute polling and analysis on Kamala Harris, who is probably now the most Googled person in the history of America. I'm really not kidding. Check this out. Border Czar on Google Trends is now being searched. What is this? 6%? How many times does 6 go into 100? 1,600% more than it's ever been searched in the last 5 years. And for some reason, even the term Willie Brown is trending more than it has in the last 5 years. But what I have today is a pretty good dump of all of our Kamala Harris polling, which, make sure you stay to the end, includes a Trump-Harris matchup. And this does not look like the +2 Harris that Reuters Ipsos put out. Now, we have a really good video covering that. If you want to check it out, we went on War Room and dove into the main details of why our poll is probably different. I think a lot of it might be it's just a big industry, and sometimes people like to cherry pick some of the thousands of polls that are put out. Although it's a registered voter poll, it doesn't show a post-RNC Trump bounce, which is kind of interesting. And in their own polling, it shows that Harris is up over Biden versus Trump. And we in our polling have never really seen Kamala Harris outperformed Biden, although today does mark a first. So make sure you hold on to the end. But here, let's get warmed up with some of our recent Kamala Harris polling. This is from June 23rd, 24th, so right before the debate. Now, this is a pattern that's held up pretty much the entire last 3 years. Every time we poll Kamala Harris favorability, she underperforms Joe Biden. The time this poll was taken, Joe Biden, I think, was doing 42, 43%. And here she is at 41% with the 21% very favorable, 43% very unfavorable, which is getting up there. I think that's actually more very unfavorable than Trump the last couple times we polled him. Trump is, time and time again, the most favorably viewed politician, but he also has pretty high, very unfavorable numbers. Men and women both view Kamala Harris unfavorably. Women, 43%, men, 39%. She really doesn't do well with any of the age groups. Middle-aged voters, 43%. So I guess that's her best. Black Americans have a higher impression of her, 54%, than anyone else, but that is lower than what they think about Joe Biden. He's sitting about 60% with them right now. But Democrats, lower numbers than Biden. This is 69% when Joe Biden's been 75 to 80% pretty much the last month. 16% Republicans, that's par for the course, but 36% independents. Now, again, this is before all of the actions of the last month, but keep in mind that Democrats need to win a majority of independents because independents are almost the same size as the Democrat and Republican electorates. Why did they pick this candidate? Kamala Harris is vice president of the United States. Is she doing a better job or worse job than most previous vice presidents? And this is the competency signal. This is a pretty good hint that American voters do not see Kamala Harris as very competent because 49% of them say she's worse than most vice presidents and only 19% say better. And in her own party, 36% of Democrats say better. That's a really low number, but 21% say worse. I mean, Republicans obviously think she's terrible. This is 77% say worse, only 8% say better. But again, look at independents. They need this woman to poll higher than Biden with independents. 51% of them say she's worse than most vice presidents. Only 12% say better. As a vice presidential running mate, does Kamala Harris help or hurt President Joe Biden's chances of getting reelected? And hurt beats help in pretty much every one of these demographics, not middle-aged voters and not in black voters. Hispanics are kind of a wash. But only 44% of Democrats say help, 15% say hurt. Not a resounding endorsement, but independents. 33% of independents say it hurts. 19% say she helps. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that among all of them, a majority or plurality say no difference. So as a vice presidential candidate on Joe Biden's ticket, she's basically a non-entity. But here is our most recent Trump-Biden matchup. Now, you might say to yourself, why is this important? We never really got a chance to go into these numbers. Things have happened so fast. If you've been keeping track, Donald Trump has been beating Joe Biden in every poll we've conducted since November from a margin between 5 and 10%. And in some of the multi-way matchups, he's in the low teens. But the most recent matchup we did, the Heartland majorly large national poll that was 2,500 likely voter respondents, had Trump up only 3 in a two-way matchup. And I think part of the reason that we saw that number so low is that it was conducted after the debate, but just before Donald Trump's assassination attempt. And Democrats rallied. Joe Biden's Democrat job approval shot up to 80%. And in the polling internals, Joe Biden picked up a lot more Democrat support than he had previously had. But these numbers, we haven't had a chance to go through the crosstabs. These were conducted pretty much after the RNC. And that's important because it shows Donald Trump back up to the same 8-point lead he's pretty much had the last 3 or 4 months, winning in this poll quite a bit with women. And that's stunning. Maybe it's sympathy for his assassination attempt. Maybe it's the unity from the RNC that was on display. Still winning with 18 to 39-year-olds narrowly, which is about where he's been. Winning most with 65 and over. That's kind of new because the 65 and older crew, I think, are a little bit more sympathetic to Joe Biden's age. Here he's massively winning white voters, is down 22 points in black voters, but this is one of his better turnouts here, 34%. I think the highest we had was over 40, though, once. Winning by 6 points among Hispanic voters, which is big and would be historic if he holds that down. But here, he has a lot of a crossover advantage. Trump's doing way better now. Trump's doing way better in this poll than he was in the post-debate poll. I think Joe Biden had 84 or 85% of the Democrat vote. Here it's back down to 78 points. So, Donald Trump's back up to, what's that, a 7-point crossover advantage. But here's the column that matters. Political independents, third-party voters, people are not sure what party they're in, give Donald Trump the edge in this poll by 21 points. Joe Biden only takes 31% of the independent votes. That is horrifying, and I just don't understand how he expects to turn that around. Here's the multi-way matchup. Important to note, okay, this is actually an 11-point margin for Trump. That's really big. Important to note that Kennedy is taking 8 here. He was as high as, I think, 12 or 13 in a multi-way matchup, but it's been drifting down. He's mostly been in the 8 to 10 range, so this is, I guess, on the lower end of that range. Trump's winning massively among women here. Again, we don't see that very often, so maybe it's just a little bit of noise. Winning by 4 points now among 18 to 39-year-olds, and Kennedy's share of the 18 to 39-year-old vote is going down. I think he's been at 15 or 16. Trump's trailing even less here among black voters, 16 points. Joe Biden is now taking home less than 50% of the black vote. I'm pretty sure their internal pollsters are ripping their hair out if they're seeing numbers similar to this. And again, here now we have a 10-point turnout, crossover advantage, sorry. But look at that independent column. Again, in my opinion, the most important column anywhere on this spreadsheet. Biden is now losing by 26 points to Trump, is taking home less than 1/4 of the independent vote, and Kennedy's almost caught up to Biden. That's just incredible. But here we are with the Kamala Harris numbers, and before we get into the matchups, we have another couple of interesting questions. Is Kamala Harris the best possible presidential candidate for the Democrat Party this year? And fewer people say yes than no. 41% say yes. 43% say no. A lot of people are not sure. They're probably out there Googling right now. Borders are or Willie Brown. Men say no more than women. Women actually say yes, 44% to 39%, sorry. 18 to 39-year-olds say yes. I think probably age has a big factor to play there. Middle-aged voters are split. I don't know how much of this is a resounding display of confidence in Kamala Harris's capabilities, or if they just perceive that there's no better options out there. Black voters mostly like her, majority 57% to 27%. Hispanic voters say yes too. Interesting. But only 75% of Democrats say yes, 24% say no or not sure. I mean, I guess that's pretty confident. Only 66% of Republicans say no. They probably want to run against her. 18% say yes. And 51% of independents say no. They would prefer to see a better candidate. 28% of independents say yes. But how likely is it that other Democrats will challenge Kamala Harris for the presidential nomination at the Democrat Party's national convention next month? Now, we didn't get into the rules, and I think the window is rapidly closing, but there is reason to expect that this could possibly happen. There's some really major former political candidates that really would like to be in Kamala Harris's spot right now. I can think of one, perched up there in New York like a vulture, probably salivating over her chances of getting in. And pretty sure that as of the time I'm filming this, Barack Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris, and that is important. But people don't think she's going to get challenged. Only 41% say it's at least somewhat likely. Only 19% say very likely. Almost a majority, 48% say not likely. But, there's quite a few not sures. But going out to the party numbers, only 36% of Democrats say it's likely. Only 19% say very. And a majority, 58% of them, say it's not likely. So this is a note to Democrats. If you have an open convention, if there are some backroom dealings in advance of that convention that puts another candidate in place, it will be a little bit of a shock to your voters because they are not suspecting it. But 48% of Republicans do think it's likely, only 24% likely, 41% say not likely, and independents are split. They're probably not paying attention too close. All right. So here you are, the moment you've been waiting for, the two-way Kamala Harris-Donald Trump matchup, and Donald Trump is winning by 7 points here. That's actually down a point. So, Trump was beating Biden by 8 here, is only beating Kamala by 7. That could be Trump's bounce petering out. It could be all the positive press that people are giving Kamala Harris right now. But because of those circumstances, Kamala Harris actually does outperform Joe Biden for the very first time in our polling, just a few weeks after he horrified the world with his debate performance. Trump's doing way better among men here, 12 points, winning by 12 points, and worse among women. It's hard to say if that's because women are supporting Kamala because she's a woman, or this is just noise in the poll. But here he was up 11 with women. It's down to 2 points. He's actually doing great among 18 to 39-year-olds. This is the biggest margin he's ever had. I wonder why the 18 to 39-year-olds love Donald Trump so much better when Kamala Harris is on the ticket than Joe Biden. Could be Joe Biden's age. Could be because these are the people connected to the internet Googling Kamala Harris right now. And I'll tell you what, Trump was winning a lot, 14 points, 65 and older, and is now down to 1 point among 65 and older people. I don't know if that's because older people are more sensitive to Joe Biden's age problem, or now Trump's the oldest candidate, or maybe the idiot box is doing its job right now. Trump's down 26 points among black voters. It was 22 points here. So there's a 4-point DEI effect. He's actually down a point with Hispanics when he was up 6 points against Biden. So minority voters like Kamala Harris better. That's a fact. And white voters, 13 points here, 10 points here. So he's down with everybody, but, averages out to 1 point. Okay. Here are the party numbers. And Kamala Harris is now taking 83% of the Democrat vote. Again, erasing the Democrat crossover advantage almost as much as in the big Heartland poll. Joe Biden was only getting 78% of the Democrat vote back there. But Trump is winning better among Republicans now. There's something about Kamala Harris that makes more Republican-identifying voters go for Trump. But here we are, again, the most important column in the page, and, Trump's up 20. The math says 21. So that's a wash. To them, Kamala Harris is no different than Joe Biden, as the other polling predicted. And it makes you wonder what their strategy is, because they really do have to win a majority of those people. The independent identified voters in our weighting are over 30% of the electorate. If the 2024 candidate, okay, this is the multi-way. If the candidates were this list, who would you vote for? And it's unchanged at 7%. But what's interesting here is that RFK is down to 4 points. So there's something about Kamala being on the ticket that makes people much less willing to vote Kennedy and even third party. These are all like zeros. This is all sub 1. This is the lowest turnout of third party candidates that we've seen in any of our recent polling. Basically all these margins kind of match up, although the 18 to 39-year-old result is a little less here. More people going for Kennedy, obviously. Middle age result for Trump's a little higher, so that probably offsets. And Trump is doing even worse among black voters. Again, probably because of Kennedy. Not much to say about the party numbers here, except again for independents. And do the math. Kamala Harris in a multi-way 2024 matchup is down 24 points on Donald Trump among politically independent voters. Only 3 in 10 cast their vote for Kamala Harris if the election were held today. So where are we going to go from here? Well, there's probably going to be wall-to-wall positive press coverage for Kamala Harris as long as they can drag it out. They're going to try and make the DNC convention the most unified, glorified, kumbaya event that's ever existed. I wonder how they're going to be able to do that, though, because I think back to the most recent DNC event, and I remember a lot of cringe. But anyway, I think that's their play, because they really have to convince independents somehow that this woman is better than Joe Biden. And right now, they seem to think that she's worse. If you've liked what you've seen today, make sure you follow us on YouTube and Rumble. We go into polls, really deep. You can learn a lot. I'm really happy to have you there. And anytime you have questions or you have some ideas for questions to ask, you can drop them in the YouTube comments. Follow us on Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. And I'm on there as well at Mark_R_Mitchell. And thanks for watching.